Welcome to the Money GPS. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Everything we've been talking about since the financial crisis is now coming to fruition. Let's begin. The first thing I want to show you is what's front and center on your mind, and basically everyone's at this point, and that is the top financial concern being money. Money, of course, inflation. When you see what's been happening with the prices we are paying for gasoline and then basically everything else that I cover all the time on here, it goes to show you how close people are to the edge. Most people, for one reason or another, have pushed themselves to the edge or found themselves at the edge. And when we see prices rise, it's bad news. And I've been talking about that all along, okay? All throughout. Since I wrote my book, I have that in black and white and documented all throughout each and every time. This happens through every single cycle. I documented that as far back as 1920 up until the present cycle, all throughout. And it is very clear. Now you look at this. What's the next level of inflation? Well, it's kind of been going on a long time, but shrinkflation. Yes, we've talked about this before, and you could see it for yourself. No, you're not imagining it. Package sizes are shrinking. And you can see what they've done with that Gatorade bottle. You know, it used to be sort of straight down, and now it's kind of Marilyn Monroe here. And you look at that, and to some people, they might just grab it off the shelf, and that's it. They're grabbing a Gatorade. But for others who have that astute eye, perhaps they would notice the fact that, hey, all of these products seem to have less in them. Whether it's your toilet paper, whether it's your paper towel, whether it's crackers or anything else, you see the shrinkflation that is taking place. And this is another way that we see inflation. You know, you see it shrinkflating, but ultimately it's a devaluation. The dollars per unit, whatever that milliliters or grams or whatever it might be, per unit just continues, the dollars per that, devalues basically. All right. Look at this. Dalio says central banks to cut rates in 2024. Why? Because where we are headed right now today is a crisis. That crisis, recession, that's, I don't want to say a guarantee, but that's becoming sort of known. Okay, we're going into recession. Yes. But what happens 2023, 2024, when you have this much debt, when you have an economy and markets that rely on easy monetary policies, and we can barely inch our way upward without creating a problem, you've got devastating results. So they could try to kick the can down the road. How do they do that? By quickly doing this, let's get the recession on, and then they can reverse course so they have that cushion in there. Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention was look down in the description below, that very first link. That's my new channel. On that new channel, I'm going to be covering tidbits of information that I may not hear. Okay, and there are other reasons why I created that channel. But for now, go there, just subscribe to that channel, okay? It is very important. Okay, I'm trying to get a lot of growth on there, and you'll see why. Bridgewater bets against US and European corporate bonds on slowdown fears. Sharp interest rate rises could crack the economy. That's according to the CIO of Bridgewater. And you know that what they are trying to highlight here is what we're talking about between you and I. I see your comments. And then we have this, mortgage applications. You got to understand. I mean, that is, I was finding it hard to believe, actually. Look at this. Mortgage applications are at a level we haven't seen since the early 2000s. And if it continues over the next couple months, which it probably will, we're going to go back to the 90s. Is it going to go back to the early 90s, maybe even further back? So extreme. Why? It's mortgage rates, guys. You know that. You know that. Mortgage payment for a median new home as a percentage of the median household income has shot up like crazy, 37.8%. So this just tells us right now that houses are becoming more expensive. And as you can see, mortgage demand hits a 22-year low as interest rates rise. Let me know in the comments. Do you see these kind of things around you? Not necessarily for yourself, but have you started to hear the people around you talking about this? Hey, what's happening with the homes in the area? They're not selling as fast. Have you seen the crazy lineups of people around trying to get into an open house? Is that still happening around you? Let me know in the comments. Relative affordability of new homes in the US. You can see that just basically declining there. And we see more and more stats. I'll show you some charts, okay? Bad time to buy a house in the US. This just keeps getting, I mean, we haven't seen anything like, the chart goes back to the 80s. And we have not seen anything like this before. It's extreme. And so when you pile on all this debt, that's what I'm trying to highlight for you. You encounter big, big problems. There's no other way to put it. Elevated inflation is discouraging non-essential spending. And that's the big one. Because you can, what I find, and whether this is on Twitter, whether this is in articles, whether it's in comments, whatever, I always see that and I deconstruct it, because the arguments that I have, I deconstruct those, and I wrote 2 books about that to take my time with those arguments. And so what I see here is not one single point, but I try to zoom out and see what's happening on every level. If you have interest rate rising, what's the ripple effect? I'm always thinking long and hard about this information. Perhaps spending too much time thinking about it, but anyway, that's besides the point. Okay, so looking at this, percentage change in spending among US adults from February 22 to March 22, and you can see this: gas, 9%, car insurance, personal care, restaurants, housing, and so on. At the very end of the spectrum, recreation, airfare, alcohol, furniture, public transportation, and so on. So we see what's happening now. People are saying, I just don't need it, or I can't pay my bills right now. Well, what's happening with that? Why is that the case? Well, look, personal savings annualized. What has happened? All right, it's kind of, moving basically nothing. Okay, then that started to tick up after the financial crisis. People were worried what's going to happen with my jobs and so on. This did tick up even further. And then you see the anomaly, obviously. Why? Because everybody was given a whole bunch of cash. But now that has come down to levels we haven't seen in many years. Okay? So this should be telling us, this should be a warning for us, that the prices that we are paying today for stuff, whether it's gas or whether it's the new iPhone, whatever it is becoming too expensive to manage. And that means we go from a point of recession to potentially something even worse. After 1929, by the way, they stopped using the word depression because they didn't want to have that, sort of the psychology behind it. But everything prior to 29 was a depression. Even the depression of 1920. Most people don't even know that existed. That's why I started my history section of my book in that manner. Fertilizers piling up at Brazil's ports signal further price drop. Now, this is huge, and I wanted to bring it to you because we see what's happening right now. It's never one-sided, and even for fertilizer. So you can see this here. The stocks are full after record imports. Delayed purchases may create inland transportation bottlenecks. A glut of fertilizers at the biggest Brazilian ports signal that the price of the nutrients may have to drop further before farmers start buying. This is demand destruction, okay? Hear me out. Demand destruction. And that to me is so important because I've been highlighting it all throughout. It goes in connection with this. Lumber prices get chopped in half amid chill in housing markets. So we have this. Prices too high. People are saying, nope, no thanks. I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to wait and see. And I remember talking about this actually because I was talking to 2 real estate agents at the time. And they were talking amongst, we were all talking, but in this regard, they were talking amongst each other saying, my clients, one of them said, My clients are basically in the wait and see mode, many of them. And that was been several months. It's been several months now, anyway. And then we have this. I've been telling you about Beijing, about Shanghai, how they're opening up, how that's positive news, and hopefully we continue in that trajectory. And then we get this. Shanghai puts areas back into lockdown and hunt for cases. So it's just a small subsection of this. This is, I think what they're going to do is they're going to do targeted, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, funding squeeze at buy now, pay later firm flashes warning. Many different companies are putting the squeeze on, advertising less. Uber and many other companies, I'm quite aware of this. Believe me, they are starting to spend less money. All right. And then we have this, of course, which is essentially the consumer. It gives you a look into the consumer and what they are feeling, which directly connects in with this. Apple will handle lending itself with new pay later service. They're partnering up with your friends at Goldman Sachs. Yes, so Goldman Sachs was the one that did their credit card. Okay, so Apple has a credit card. Goldman Sachs is the partner on that, and now they're going into a step further. They want more services at this time. People are already going and they're tapping at the store, tap, 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 instead of using cash or whatever. So Apple's basically saying, hey, why don't we be the one to provide them the services instead of them going elsewhere? So all of this adds up, and you could see it for yourself. You could see the concerns that have all been lined up over here. But you as the individual, what can you do? Well, number one, like I said, go to the link in the description. I've got on that channel, it's just going to be tips, tips, tips. Every day, you're going to get 2 really short videos, 20 seconds here, 40 seconds there, super short, condensed. You're going to get that. Click on that link and subscribe. Okay. The other thing you could do is I have a playlist here on this channel called How to and Solutions. I put it there for people just to get info, but also for those who haven't read my books. The next thing is you as the individual, if you can, pay down your high interest debt first. That's the one that's killing you. Okay. Some people, I've talked to people that say, no, I want to, break apart the bigger one first. My opinion, I think you should go after the high interest debt first. Speak to a professional about this too. There are companies out there who, for a nominal fee, will help you with that. Okay. They will actually be able to get some of the debt canceled. So that's it for this video. If you appreciate the information, hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thumbs up once, twice, 3 times. I appreciate that very much. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.